Hey, you. Welcome back. It is another episode of AthleticsCast. I'm Wayne Coy. It is good to be here fresh off of Fans Fest. Yeah, we were able to make the trip down. Is it down or up from Vegas? I guess it would be down. Yeah, make the trip down to the homestead in the Bay Area and hang out with some great friends. What an opportunity to feel what the A's fan base feels like when it's together and it's united. We kind of felt that, of course, at the reverse boycott last year, but man, was it good to see. We haven't even had an inning of actual regular season play yet. We've dealt with everything a misfit toy can deal with off the field, yet having said all of that, just first of all, fantastic weather. Temperature was around 72, perfect, sun shining all over Jack London, and of course, Oakland collectively. Just the entire city just felt vibrant, not just with the A's, of course, but with the Roots and the Soul and the Spiders and everybody who was out there. It just was a great day. What's really cool is like 15 to 20,000 is the estimate for the crowd, which was actually more than attended the A's spring training game that day in Mesa. Yeah, it's true. Like 15 to 20K is what they're saying turned up. It was great to feel that energy. And of course, get reunited with some old friends like Grant Balfour and Billy North and Ben Grieve and Mike Norris and Trevor May, who's become a favorite over the last year. He was there as well. Big ups to everybody who was involved with putting this thing together. Oakland 68's, the last dive bar, of course. And for the folks that were there, like the MC of all MCs, Casey Pratt, guest speaker Damon Bruce, who's learned, I think, how to be an A's fan over the years, which is pretty cool to watch. I remember when he was kind of anti-A's and Mr. Giants, back on 95-7 the game. But, yeah, Damon's feeling it. He knows what's up. And Mayor Tao, of course, was there as well. Just a great turnout. If you're looking for anything negative, I can't tell you one thing. I mean, there was the beer controversy at the beginning with Drake's. But besides that, I mean, just everything you could want to have happen, happened. There was memorabilia, there was food, there was beverage, but most importantly, the camaraderie of the fan base. And ain't no party like an Oakland party, because the Oakland party don't stop. That's what they say. Well, they're playing baseball in Arizona. Spring training so far has been more losses than wins for the A's, but they're just trying to figure it all out, I do believe. J.P. Sears makes his debut today against Stephen Vogt. Yes, we believe. See, it's right down there in the corner. Yeah, Stephen Vogt, manager of the Guardians. Still have a hard time saying that. But Cleveland, playing the A's today. Interesting lineup today. We do not see the guy that was the hero of the game yesterday. That was slugger Drew Lugbauer. Huh? Yeah, he's been in the Braves organization for a couple of years. No doubt about it, he's got power. He hit 53 homers over the last couple of seasons combined. But he strikes out more than half the time. There's the issue. So, of course, he is a non-invitee, they say, to spring training. And he stepped up and did what he's known to do, which is hit the ball out of the park. Now, he's getting up there in years. I don't see where there's a place for him in the lineup, but, of course, they're going to need people to play in Las Vegas to fill up the roster. So maybe he gets a good long look at AAA, and we'll see. Yeah, you might be saying, wait a minute, our major league team is AAA. No, come on now. We'll maybe see him in Vegas, because the positions he would play, DH, first base, and I think he plays a little bit of outfield as well. Just tough to find a home for him there, unless, of course, he can all of a sudden cut way, way, way back on his strikeouts, because contact's been an issue for him his entire career. I do love that he's wearing number 75, Barry Zito's old number. So, of course, that's spring training, so we'll have to wait and see. Also, no Ryan Noda in the lineup today. Darrell Hernandez, though, everybody's talking about him. He was the minor league player of the year last year for the A's in their organization. He gets the start at third base, which means the law firm of Diaz, Toro, and Diaz are all taking the day off, so we'll have to see what happens there. Outfield, another place we're watching. No Ruiz in the lineup today. It is Bleday in left, Lawrence Butler getting the start in center field, and Seth Brown in right, and Brent Rooker is the DH today as the A's take on the Guardians. Opportunity to catch up with a guy who I just love to read. He's a writer, if you hadn't figured that out. His name's Owen Poindexter, Front Office Sports, and just a couple of pieces in the last week or so. that have gotten our attention. You want to make sure you check those out. And of course, we got a chance to talk to Owen and find out everything that is Mr. Poindexter. Episode of AthleticsCast. Here's a guy we've been trying to get on the show for a long time. He's elusive. Let's just say that. But we can't he wriggles off the hook. Owen Poindexter, who I have to say before we say anything else, Owen. First, so hold on. Technical difficulties. Be right back. Hang on. Don't go away. That's why right there, dummy. Okay. You'd think after 40 years, right? Okay, your show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Second is, I apologize. I had you pegged as a complete Giants fan. And it turns out there's a little green and gold in your bloodstream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, green and gold, a little blue and orange, actually. So I grew up a Mets fan, which has been great. And then moved out to the Bay Area 15 years ago, right around when the Giants were beginning their crazy 3 World Series in 5 years run. So, enjoyed that bandwagon, but also been, tracking and loving the A's, kind of adopted them as a second team. And obviously have been, watching and writing and reporting about their attempt to build a new stadium, move to Las Vegas, and who knows. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I think what it was I heard you with our boy, Marty Lurie.
Oh, yeah.
And Marty, turncoat, just kidding. I mean, he was the A's guy for a while, and then he bolted across the Bay. And to be honest, now he's synonymous with the Giants. Mm-hmm. So I've already said Giants more than I ever would like to on this show. So we'll just move along. Let's talk about this whole, they're in Oakland. They're maybe going to stay for a few years. What's your take on that?
So, I mean, for anyone who thinks like this is all Oakland's fault, this breakup, and Oakland's not blameless here, but watching how the A's have proceeded since we're breaking up, we're going to Vegas, adios. It just shows just a lack of logic and planning and forethought. It makes all the sense in the world for them, while they're building their stadium in Vegas, to stay in Oakland, because they have a media deal that pays them around $70 million per year. Cha-ching. As long as they're in the area. That means Oakland, or sharing Oracle Park with the Giants, which, sorry to say it again, don't think it's going to happen. But it doesn't mean Sacramento. It doesn't mean Salt Lake City. Definitely doesn't mean Vegas. So, and also they already have the stadium. They already have a major league stadium. Say what you will about it, but it's a major league stadium. They're already there. They have trained staff who know the team, know how it operates.
Offices. All the infrastructure, it's all there.
It's all here. And so now they are finally starting to re-engage with Oakland, or at least they had one meeting, and we reported at Front Office Sports that Billy Beane, who I've been sort of wondering where he is in all this. Anyway, he pushed John Fisher to re-engage with Oakland. And so we'll see what happens. They're in Oakland for the 24 season, but they need to figure out their deal because, clock's ticking, and this team has shown that it's good at just letting that clock tick and not figuring out a whole lot. So sure, it feels like they have a lot of time now, and they do. They've got a year, but that year can vanish pretty quick if things don't materialize.
And the commissioner's saying he'd like an answer by July at the latest. And then you got the players union now where Tony's saying, hey, hold on a second. You got to ask us what we think. And they're going to have some input, obviously, right?
Right. I mean, we're finally starting to see like the major powers in baseball say like, okay, do something here. Like we can't just sit around and just figure this out because players want to know. I mean, there are still free agents out there. Not that many of them are going to sign with the A's, but if in a hypothetical world in which the A's were offering multi-year deals, a player would want to know, okay, I'm going to be in Oakland, and then where? Still in Oakland? Am I going to Salt Lake? Where should I put my kids? And MLB wants some clarity. I mean, at some point they're going to have to make a schedule. They have to figure out logistics. They have to figure out if they're going to refurbish a AAA stadium to make it somewhat major league ready. There's all sorts of stuff that they don't need to wait till the last minute, but they are. I mean, in July sounds very late. I mean, when Manfred says July at the latest, you hope that's not giving them a buffer of like, well, if it's August, September, we'll make it work.
They've proven to be pretty good at seeing a supposed deadline and running right through it, right? I mean, they were supposed to have their stadium deal binding by January. That they still don't have that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean they don't have funding. They haven't met the requirements in SB1, which is the law that authorizes the $380 million from the state of Nevada and Clark County to build that stadium. They still have to do some stuff before they actually get that money.
Right.
And so that deal it's only kind of half baked right now. MLB just doesn't want the headache of saying you lose the revenue sharing. They just sort of pretended that they didn't, that they have a deal in place. They're saying,
right.
Good enough, partial credit, but we'll give it to you, pass fail.
How much of that is CYA for the other owners? I mean, they want to make sure if they ever decide they want to bolt that they weren't the ones who said you can't. Is that how you have to look at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of that, the 30-0 vote to allow the relocation. Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing the effects of that with in Arizona, where or Ken Kendrick, the owner, is saying, we'd love to stay in the area. We haven't engaged with other localities yet, but if we don't get our public funding, certainly lots of other cities would love this team. Chicago White Sox, are they ever going to leave Chicago? I don't think so. Right. But Jerry Reinsdorf, what leverage does he have other than to say, he's saying, please give us $1 billion. And the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, just said, I don't know if that's a great use of public money. And so Reinsdorf, he can either just say, oh, well, I asked and he said no, or he can say, well, Nashville really wants a team. They've been getting ready for a team. Nashville's going to get an expansion team, or I think they will. I'd be pretty surprised if they don't. But it might happen faster if they move the White Sox over. Anyway, Reinsdorf, we're just covering this in our podcast. He ran this playbook in the late 80s, told Chicago, I'm taking this team to Florida unless you give me, 100-something million for a new stadium.
It worked.
They did. It worked. And then a White Sox blogger pointed me toward this cigar aficionado interview in 1995 that Reinsdorf did and said, you gotta create leverage. And so I had to create the perception that the team might move. So that's what he's doing again. He's creating the perception, though this time he's saying, at some point I'm going to die. I'm going to pass this team on to my heirs. And if we don't have a new stadium, I will advise them to, or he's going to say, I'm going to advise them to sell the team regardless, I think, but it'll be worth more outside of Chicago unless we get the new stadium. So even this is like sort of a future looking, like, give us the new stadium or else in some number of years we're maybe going to leave. Not quite as strong a threat as a while back. But that's kind of the only leverage these owners have, is to say, if you don't give us our public money, we might leave. Instead of, if you don't give us all this taxpayer money, we'll say, oh, darn, these billionaires will have to spend it themselves.
Right. So speaking of leverage, because that's the key word here, how much leverage does the city of Oakland have with the A's if they're going to sit back down and talk about another 3, maybe 4 years?
I mean, probably a lot. It starts with that $70 million that they have on the books if they stay in the area.
They're not going to walk away from that.
You wouldn't think so. I mean, so much of this timeline to get to Vegas or to get to somewhere has been driven by his, very strong desire to stay on MLB's revenue sharing system, which is, in that same neighborhood. I actually don't know what they're getting at this point, but it's in that same range that they're getting from this media money. They're not going to get anything close to that in another city. They won't get zero, but they won't get $70 million to locally broadcast the Salt Lake City A's. So the city can ask for a lot. The interesting thing will be what they ask for. I mean, the most natural thing would just say, give us a percentage of that 70 million. Makes enough sense. But Oakland has signaled that they want other things, like to be guaranteed an expansion team, which sadly I don't think is happening, but they've talked the talk around that.
Right. So let me talk to A's fan Owen for 1 second then, because there is a part of you that is a fan. Sure. And I understand it's your job as well. But I mean, are you going to be okay with the fact that, they got some more money? The city of Oakland was able to at least get some of that TV money. Is that satisfy you? Or are you still at this point going, forget this? This guy is leaving and doesn't care about us. He's basically defecated on us for 5 years now, especially in the last 5 years. We're out. We're not going to attend one game and we don't care. Are they going to push and push and push to get Sheng Tao to basically say, hey, either you do give us the Athletics intellectual property and the name, or an expansion team MLB. I know the A's can't do that, but the league could. Do the fans have a say? Because you were there at Fans Fest. I mean, you saw they're not happy with the way things have been done. So if you're a politician, how do you handle that? And
it's interesting. I mean, I talked to a few fans. Some of them said, you know what, good riddance. You know, if like I don't need to see this team 25 to 27. Most of them wanted to stick around. And for me as a fan, I would like them to stick around, mostly because that means there's still 3 years for this Vegas deal to go south, or something to happen. I think once they're out, they're probably out. And it's harder to imagine they go to Sacramento and then say, you know, actually, backing up, you know, anything's possible. But if they stick around, it's just a lot easier to imagine something going wrong, you know, with the Vegas deal. Fisher then has to go back to the state of Nevada, which is maybe less interested in giving out, you know, that $380 million again, which wasn't particularly popular to begin with and required. If you remember how the bill negotiations went, legislators were pretty skeptical of giving out this money in the initial bill. And then they both added provisions, including things like it has to be at this Tropicana site and it can't just be somewhere in Clark County.
Yeah, it
has to be at that site.
And now it's very
specific.
That. Yeah.
And they added in a bunch of unrelated things. You know, other priorities from these legislators got glommed onto that bill to make it kind of, you know, more of a sausage of just, here's some things that'll make it worth it for us. And then they passed the bill. So if the stadium deal falls through, as far as I know, the bill, like that funding, that other unrelated stuff is still in the bill. And so then they'd have to go back to the state and say, hey, give us the money that you weren't thrilled about giving us in the first place. You know, at that point you could see maybe Fisher says, you know, it's good. I'm just going to take my $1 billion and go home and sell the team. But so if they're in Oakland, I think it's just a better chance that they stay in Oakland. And yeah, what would I want the city to demand? I mean, if there's any hope of getting a guarantee of an MLB team when baseball expands, then great, do that. Like, you know, make that the thing you demand. But is that going to happen? I see that as a stretch. One, because it's just a very weird look to say this team is leaving the city, and we've, you know, Manfred and others have, you know, trashed the city and its leadership as, you know, the reason why this is happening, because he's not going to say that about one of his 30 bosses, John Fisher. And so then to say, okay, the condition of us leaving is we're coming back, is kind of weird. Also, they want a giant bidding war between all the cities that want an MLB team, and to say we're just taking one of them right off the table before this has even started seems unlikely, seems like a hard sell to the other owners.
So what's your prediction then? How does it end, as Phil Collins once said?
I mean, I think the most likely thing is they move to Vegas. And, you know, I know there's some people who say 50-50. You know, Vital Vegas, one source there is saying 60-40 that they move. It's not a done deal. There's a lot of ways this could go wrong, especially with the Tropicana site. If that money wasn't legally attached to the Tropicana site, I would be, you know, that much more. They
would move again, right? They'd go back to one of those other locations.
Right. Yeah. They would just have more options to say, you know, this whole squeezing a stadium onto 9 acres and making it domed, and then, you know, getting the funding for that. There's just a lot of ways it could go wrong. And so that's why I think, you know, there is a chance that this falls through. I don't know what the odds are. It's just the whole thing is very opaque. You know, we get these tea leaves once in a while of, you know, now they're working with Goldman Sachs. Now they're trying to sell some minority shares of the team.
That came out of the wild blue, didn't it? I mean, I was there, and I wasn't expecting that to come out of his mouth at all. All of a sudden, he was like, well, if you would like to be a part of this. And the whole time in Oakland, it was every time there was an idea of maybe getting a consortium together of local investors, Reggie Jackson, whoever it was always, no. This is our team. It's my family's thing, and we're going to manage it, and we're going to do it the John Fisher way. And now he's got his hat in his hand. That's because Vegas, they don't want him here. I mean, I'm being honest with you. There's no vibe. There hasn't been for this entire year, and it's worse now than it's ever been in terms of apathy. If it was the Dodgers, it'd be a whole nother conversation.
Right. I mean, if you're going to adopt an MLB team and the ownership group along with it, and one that's saying that they're in it for the long haul, why do you want this one? I mean, they had a excellent team in 2019, 2020. They had a core of stars who continue to be stars for other teams.
Sure.
And they traded them off for not very much. And it's just like the new Moneyball is just owning a baseball team and not doing anything with it. It's just like milking the revenue sharing system and the media rights system to just collect checks and spend as little as possible on the team. And we're seeing the predictable results. And the A's are no longer the team that can win on a budget. That's the Rays. That's currently the Orioles. That's the Astros on a mid-level budget. Some teams that have figured out how to do this.
It's not in the farm system. That's the issue. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they used to be able to pull
Daryl Hernandez. There are a couple.
There's guys to be interested in. There always are. But but for a team that had 3 or 4 of the most valuable tradable assets in baseball a few years ago and traded them.
Yep. Every one of them.
You would think they would have a farm system that reflected that, and they really don't. They have Astoria Ruiz, who's very fast and not very much else.
Yeah, but I love him, and I hear he's got some power now. So watch out. The prediction was 20 home runs from that guy this year. We'll see.
Wow. Well, we'll see.
2 quick questions. I want you back again. That's the first thing. Secondly, you've spent a little time talking about schools over stadiums. Is there a referendum that's going to end up on the ballot in Nevada in your prediction? Did you spend any time with those guys at Fans Fest at all? Or no?
Yeah, I did chat with Chris Daly over there. First of all, yes, happy to come back on. Second of all, I mean, they projected all sorts of confidence that there will be a ballot referendum. So yeah, there's two groups working together that are one's pursuing a lawsuit to say that SB1 is unconstitutional, which is possible given how quickly that was all thrown together. Maybe I'm not a lawyer, not pretending to be. Maybe they have a case. I'm not sure. They think it's enough of a case to pursue. In terms of ballot referendum, they have to get just over 100,000 signatures. And right now,
starting in April, I think, right?
Yeah. And what they said is that, there's language of the referendum that is currently tied up in the court system, and that they need 10 weeks. They're saying, do what you will here, courts, but give us 10 weeks to get those signatures. I asked Chris, if you get those 10 weeks, can you do it? And he said, absolutely. Of course, he's going to project confidence. But he did project confidence, for whatever that's worth. I mean, I don't have any more sense of it than that.
Okay.
I think they're going to throw what they've got at this. It's a powerful group, as far as I can tell, that, is backing these groups, the teachers unions. I mean, I'm speaking as a Californian, I guess, but, they're some of the most powerful groups in here in this state. I guess I shouldn't speak for Nevada.
And this would be considered to be, I guess, the less equipped of the two. And depending on where you're at in the state, maybe the more popular of the two. They tend to have a lot of support up around Reno, northern Nevada. But most of their support's coming, I mean, let's be honest, it's coming from A's fans. That's where the money's coming from. So, but we've had them on the show. We're going to continue to follow that, because I believe if it does get on the ballot, Owen, no way he gets that money. No way.
Yeah. I mean, these referendums, they haven't gone well recently.
They never do.
If you're a banker considering giving this team some money to build a stadium, and they may or may not get $380 million, that's not a great bet. So you're at least going to, I would think, wait until November before committing to doing anything with this team.
Yeah.
So just the fact of the referendum is
that's
dangerous.
the injunction, right? Is to stop them from being able to spend any of that until, no matter what happens, no matter if the stadium authority says, sure, go ahead, it's all good, Lombardo gives it the thumbs up, without having that lawsuit in place. That could actually happen, where they've got $100 million spent before they even started. Now, this could maybe tap the brakes and give them enough time to say, okay, we either are or we aren't on the ballot. Here's the most important question. They're taking the Rooted in Oakland sign down. In fact, it is down. Yeah. So now, what's going up in its place?
Oh, that I have no idea. I mean, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, A's, like, what are you going to do now? What cringeworthy thing is going to go up there that shows the next level of tone deafness? Don't know what it is, but yeah, not holding my breath there.
Okay. Well, we'll see you at the ballpark. And of course, we'll have you back here on the show. Owen Poindexter, who you can read anytime you want. We used to read you in The Athletic, but now it's Front Office Sports. And you guys are deep into the weeds, which I love. So if you're looking for detail, this guy can write an article, and you've got a nose for news, which I really appreciate, Owen. Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me on.
You got it. It's another episode of AthleticsCast in the can. We'll be back with another before you know it. Thanks for being here, spending your time with us. We appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Wayne Coy, and you keep on swinging.